Hello everybody, I'm going to offer you a video about emotional control today, and also about radical self-acceptance in actual fact, because the two are very linked. So this was in specific response to a question that I got on another video. The video was about perception versus reality, perception versus the underlying experience. And someone said, okay, so practically speaking, how do you implement emotional control? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'll offer you some techniques because I think it's quite useful to habituate a set of techniques in order that you feel like, well, when stuff comes up, you can handle it. You have ways of handling it. But I want to talk on the much more profound level about how this process unfolds, or at least how it unfolded for me. And that's why I want to talk about radical acceptance. Because the fascinating thing about emotional control is that it's not universal. We don't really want to control all our emotions. If we're filled with joy, if we're filled with happiness, if we have a deeply profound sense of serenity, or love is emanating out from our every pore, we don't want to limit that. We don't want to control that in any way at all. We want to ride the wave. Yeah. So when we're talking about emotional control, interestingly, we're already talking about emotions that we don't like. We are segmenting between good and bad. I don't like this feeling. I want this feeling instead. Yeah. So here's the radical acceptance element. We suffer when we compound our pain with resistance. Yeah. Pain is kind of inevitable. Yeah. Unexpected events that we fail to anticipate in life are going to occur. Some of those are going to be good in our storybook. Some of those are going to be bad. Some of those are going to be fun. Some of them are going to be painful. That's going to occur because we can't control the world. We're not omnipotent. What we can control is the way that we respond to that. And the biggest way of choosing how to respond is, am I going to resist? Am I going to deny? What you resist persists. Imagine emotions as a messenger that's banging on your door. If you resist that, if you pretend that you're not there, it's going to bang louder on the door. It's going to scream and shout louder and louder until you get the message. Once you open the door and the messenger delivers the message, they tend to go away. Yeah, they've done their job. This is why radical acceptance is supremely important. So how do you get to radical acceptance? How do you get to, okay, I'm no longer going to resist the emotions that I dislike and therefore hand them all the power to scream and shout, to get louder and louder, so that my trigger becomes a flood, becomes a monsoon of emotion that is out of control. And that starts with a choice. It's a very, very simple choice, but it might take a while to get to. The choice is, I have suffered enough. I'm not going to suffer, at least from a self-inflicted perspective, anymore. Things are going to occur. But when I run away from them, when I deny them, when I resist them, when I pretend they're not there, when I paint a smile on my face, but inside I'm crying or screaming, when my life is on fire, but I feel obliged to present the yesterday person that everybody expects, I deny every truth inside my body and I crack myself open, and that is screaming fire. Instead, I'm not going to suffer anymore. I'm not going to resist that truth. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to observe it. It might be wrong, but I'm not going to deny it. I'm going to treat it as information, as feedback, whether I like it or not. That is step number one. Pain without resistance, you can flow through. Pain with resistance, it's like a blockage. It's like a serrated knife with a brick wall in front of it, and you know it's there, and it won't go away. Yeah? Take the resistance away, you take away the serrated edge. It becomes a story. It becomes a piece of information. You can deal with it. Having made that choice, you're still the same person you were before. You're still in circumstances that perhaps you don't like sometimes. Yeah? You still have triggers. You still have stimuli that you notice, yeah, but probably by the time you notice them, they're already there. And some of them are very, very loud, and you feel as though you should kind of dampen them down. Starting from this perspective, this wide, overarching perspective that I'm not going to suffer anymore. I am worth my life. I do deserve to exist. I am the most important thing that I've got, so I'm going to honor this, whatever this is. And so when these emotions come up, instead of rejecting them, you can observe them. You can kind of say, go on then, give me your best shot sort of approach. Next step then is, okay, so how do I control these emotions? How do I manage them so that in my day-to-day life, I can work with this, yeah? So I'll give you a few techniques. The techniques are not the solution, but the techniques get you to the point where you start to see the solution. Our response to an emotional trigger, let's say it's a chemical reaction that we suddenly become aware of that says my stomach is not happy with this, you know, or my skin is on fire, or there is a pain, or there is a rejection, or whatever the feeling is that you don't like. The response is a representation. Yeah, we have within our mind, we have objectified that. We've given it a label. So let's work through a few techniques that shift the label as step 1, or step 1.5. So honor the feeling, notice the feeling, and find the feeling. Physically find the feeling. It might be in your body. It might be like there's a sort of a perspex clear box around you and you can point to it. It tends to be in the body most of the time. Find the feeling. Then, given that your response is a response to a categorization of this feeling, a label of the experience, there are 1,001 different ways that you can relabel the experience, okay? If you look up NLP, you'll find a gazillion. Here's some of the ones which are very, very effective and very, very quick, okay? So one is find the feeling, point to the feeling, yeah? It's in here, or it's there, or it's there, or it's there, whatever it may be. Ask yourself, if I was to physicalize this feeling, if I was to give it an embodiment, even if it's a sense, does it have a color? Most of the time it has a color. If it has a color, notice the color. Ask it, what color would it rather be? And bathe it in that color instead. And notice the difference that makes the difference. Yeah. Ask it if it has a movement. If it has a movement, put it out in front of you and move it in the opposite direction. Move it faster and faster in the opposite direction until it's got a momentum of its own, until it's going in the opposite direction all by itself, and then put it back where it was in your body. And notice how you can't get the feeling back. If it's a story, if it's like a video that is running, put it in a frame. See the frame, you see I'm doing it with my hands, hold the frame, try stretching the frame, see if you can make the picture bigger, watch the picture get bigger and notice how that feels. Then try squeezing the frame down and notice how that feels. One of them is going to feel as though it's dissipating the story, and go with that and keep on going. So if sometimes people like to increase it to the point where it just kind of dissolves. Other times people want to squeeze it down till it's the size of a postage stamp, to the size of an ant, to the size of an ant dropping, and then they flick it over the horizon. For example, yeah, you might instead If it's a video, if it's a story playing in your mind, you might want to imagine that the frame has got some buttons on the bottom like an old TV, and you can turn the contrast all the way down to 0 or all the way up to 11. Yeah. So at 0, it's everything has gone to black. At 11, everything has gone to bright white, and see how that feels. They're all ways of changing the representation of this thing, this label that you've attached to the emotion. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter whether you do it completely right. You are building a skill, an observation that in so doing, you're kind of stopping the process that adds fuel to the fire of the emotion, and you're shifting it into something different. And then you put it back and you notice how you feel inside. There are all ways that will shift the label. You might instead ask yourself, am I right? Am I sure that what I'm feeling is correct? If there's a voice to it, who is speaking? Is it even you that's speaking? Is it your mum or your teacher or a policeman or some fictitious authority figure inside your mind that's speaking? But could I be dead wrong? Can you find the serenity inside of yourself? One that I like very much is to kind of focus on this spot here, which is very peaceful. It's very, very peaceful. So if you're in the privacy of your own home and you get triggered, or you're somewhere where you don't feel like an idiot, you can give yourself a moment. You can kind of go into a quasi-meditative state, if that's possible. You can do this one where you're focusing on your fingers, and you focus on the fingers, and you notice the temperature of the air around the fingers, but because there's 2 fingers out, you can't really focus on both at the same time, so you kind of put your feelings and your thoughts and your attention in between the 2 fingers, and then you notice your bodily reaction. You notice the way that the fingers are pressing forward, almost as if they're pressing on a light switch. And maybe you can notice your heart, your pulse in the fingertips. And once you've noticed everything that you've noticed, maybe you notice your arms starting to ache, or maybe you notice how still your arms have become. Once you've done all of that, you can move your attention from both fingertips to somewhere 2 or 3 centimeters in front of both fingertips. For me personally, that's also instant serenity, because there's nothing there. But they're all a choice. Yeah, they're all games that you're playing with yourself. They're all ways of manipulating the representation system inside of yourself. Now, whilst you're doing that, there might be another part of you. There might be a voice saying, this is nonsense. This hurts. I know this hurts. And if that's true, that's absolutely correct. It does hurt. What we're not doing is changing the story. What we're doing is changing the resistance. We're changing the response. Honor everything, and then you end up at a point of, turns out I can handle it. Yeah? So the more that you practice the techniques, the more you get to the point where you feel safe to deal with whatever messenger comes up. Circumstance, perception. I can handle it. I'm going to honor me. I'm going to look after me. I am sick to death of suffering. I'm doing something different. Might not be completely perfect, but I'm doing something different. That's the basis. That is the underpinning to emotional control. Once you've done that, you realize you don't need emotional control. That's where it all fits into place. You realize that all emotions are valid. All emotions are deeply, deeply you. They're all, to some extent, expressions of your aliveness. They all have a gift. Even the ones which are very painful, somehow or other, they're kind of looking after you. Yeah, there is an element of finding the love inside of the bad emotions. Once you've reached that point where everything is feedback, everything is an element of truth, it might all be dead wrong, but it's all part of your valid experience right now, and you're going to give it the space and you'll lean into it. even if that means leaning into it the following evening because that's when you've got time, you're beginning to trust all of yourself. You're beginning to have a more mature way of responding, a more thought out way of responding. You know, response is choosing your response. Responsibility is choosing your response rather than just reacting on autopilot. You end up going back to, there is no suffering. There's nothing to be afraid of. The emotions that I don't like are not actually dislikable. There's something kind of good about them. There's something very lovable about them. It's me. It's all me. And I'm going to listen to it. And I'm almost going to thank it and bathe it in love. And so the end result is a harmonizing with yourself. So the serrated edges inside of you, the radar which needs to check for the bad emotions that you need to control, doesn't matter anymore, because you know whatever comes up is useful. You know you have the ways that if you need to in the moment, you can dampen them down. And the more you habituate that, the less you need the technique, and you just know that you can park it for later. But then you get to this point of, go on then, give me your best shot, lean in and tell me the truth. And then they go away. And the more you do that, the more you trust yourself, the more at home inside your skin you feel, the more the emotions don't, it's not that they don't trigger you. It's that they're not to be resisted. You're not afraid of them anymore. They have less control. Yeah, I talked in another one of my videos that the only way that you can genuinely feel in control is when you are able to let go of control. Yeah, that is the moment when you feel safe inside of yourself, that you can let go of control in the full knowledge that you can bring the control back when you want it, and then you can let it go when you don't, so that you can truly relax inside your body. That's enough. I'll stop there. Thanks for watching. It's been a little longer than I thought, but it is quite a complicated subject. Yeah. End result is a honoring of all. Beyond that is the ridicule in the system, the ridicule of the stories of the mind, a piece from the harmony of union between you and all this other stuff. But that's for another video. All right, take care. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.